So in this segment, we're going to be talking about coronavirus, trade problems, with shipping, and kind of briefly talk about how Brexit will play a further impact on that. If you really want to learn more about some of the trade issues that are coming, I highly recommend you follow this person. Now, I don't know how to pronounce the second name, so just call her, Dr. Anna. As disrespectful as that is. Um, she's well worth a follow on Twitter. I've only been following her for a few months, and I've learned a fair bit more about shipping lines. So we'll talk about her tweets first, dig into the FT article. Then there's a few more tweets from Faisal Islam, the one of the few guys I actually respect at the BBC, seeing as the BBC's nosedived. But they've got him, and he's pretty good. I can't lie. So talking about the shipping problems, Dr. Anna saying this has been happening for the last few months. Ships at anchor waiting, shipping lines cancelling orders and diverting larger shipping lines refusing to accept new bookings. So in the UK, this is just the beginning, soon to be accompanied by the perfect Brexit storm. It was not a shock of the pandemic that sent. It was not the shock of the pandemic that sent shockwaves across the entire logistics industry, but the rebound of trade in recent months. Remember listening to the lovely guy in charge of the LA port, a large container port back in April, May, webinar with Jan Hoffman. He was almost surprised that everything was functioning well and disruptions were minor. Well, increased demand combined with the second wave, container shortages in certain places, further disruptions to supply chains. All this means moving boxes between now and January won't be easy. And I guess one of the points here is that there's a multitude of kind of reasons why we're having the world is having shipping problems. One is that obviously the pandemic means a lack of staff and things like that, so it makes it harder for things to come across. And obviously, social distancing means that you have less people crowded in offices, so maybe you have more people working doing logistic stuff from home, which can cause delays. You obviously have more people living at home, so more people ordering stuff online, such as clothing and things like that. You can't go away, so maybe you order some stuff you weren't planning on getting, or maybe you want to do renovations and things like that, and maybe those things are shipped from abroad. So there's another problem. Brexit being a third problem, we'll talk about that in a bit. And so those are kind of some of the issues I think that are causing the problems with shipping. So if we talk about this here, so this from the FT, pandemic triggers perfect storm for global shipping supply chains. The coronavirus pandemic has left some of the world's largest shipping lines facing mounting backlogs and delays, straining international supply chains and threatening to disrupt global trade. Operators say most container shipping say the container shipping industry, the backbone of global trade, is under severe pressure due to the combined impact of staff illnesses, quarantining, and social distancing, along with soaring consumer demand and disruption to factory output caused by lockdowns. Obviously, in countries like Asia, specifically China, they did have lockdowns in certain places. Which meant that things couldn't be shipped out, and that causes more problems down the line. Also, you have the further rise of things like fast fashion, where people are just constantly ordering clothes that they're only going to wear for a short amount of time. They throw those away, they buy more things, and things like that, which is just horrible for multiple reasons. But I remember seeing people saying that they want some sort of sale. I think it was with Boohoo, like 1 penny clothes or something, and I'm just like, mate, do you have any idea of the costs to the globe and also to people that have to make this sort of stuff? Obviously, you don't. The ethics of your decisions, and obviously there's no such thing as, it's very hard to find ethical consumerism in capitalism, in a capitalist system, but you can make better decisions. Anyways, before I go off on a rant about something else, Lars Jensen, chief partner of services for Maersk Line, the world's largest container shipping operator, said there was a perfect storm created by a mix of rising demand and reduced capacity in logistics systems. There's congestion in terminals, said Mr. Jensen. Mersic, I think I say pronounce it, line head of network. There's a shortage of truck drivers because some have not been able to drive, particularly out of Asia. We see part of that is linked to the fact that a lot of companies are restocking. Also, the fact is, maybe things take longer because certain countries are dealing worse with COVID, and maybe if you have lorry drivers coming out of those sort of countries, you may have issues with them coming through. That's a possible issue. As a result, productivity slows down, which delays more ships. Then we get a vicious circle. Mr. Jensen said vehicles are waiting to berth at some key ports. On Tuesday, the Marine Exchange of Southern California, which monitors conditions at the two busiest U.S. container ports, Los Angeles and Long Beach, reported 17 container ships at anchor waiting for berths. So what you have is a massive delay of ships, and it causes more problems the longer they're there, and obviously it's a massive cost problem as well. of these ships being here because it costs money to pay the staff. Some of the places you get charged just for being there, I think. And so obviously you have that. You have issues with paperwork having to get through as well. And so you can see here that there's a lot of issues with this stuff. The port reported a volume of 506,613 containers in October. The latest figures available, up nearly a third in the same period last year. In response, shipping lines are cancelling and diverting vessels. So what you have is potentially ships going to different ports to deal with the what's it called, delays. With these seaports. Singapore, the world's largest container hub, saw its rollover ratio, the proportion of cargo arriving at a port that is shipped on a different vessel than originally scheduled. I'm not 100% sure what all of this stuff means. I couldn't tell you. This is not my area of expertise at all. The only things I want to tell you is there are massive problems with shipping, and Brexit will play a large part in that. So I want to do my best to get through this article. I know it's not my best video, so apologies for that. But the point is, the entire shipping supply chain is under pressure. Another of the world's largest shipping container companies, the market situation is extraordinary because what you essentially have here is a rise of demand and a fall of supply, and that's where you get massive problems and bottlenecks. So COVID-19 outbreaks can swiftly disrupt a port's terminal's productivity by forcing large numbers of staff to isolate, he added. We've had examples where in a port of 600 port workers were put into quarantine. Even that port was on top of its game. Then within a week you have 10 vessels struggling to get alongside the terminal quays, and basically with COVID causing staff to self-isolate. The issue you have there is less staff dealing with the port, dealing with the ships, and therefore you create a bottleneck there. And even if you have a few hours of delays, you can have massive amounts of ships piling up, massive amounts of containers that need to be discharged, if that's the right word for it. And that's the point of this piece, is to say that there are massive problems already with shipping. And if we go to our final piece with from Faisal Islam, which I think is a bit easier to understand, at least for me anyways. So he goes, ports chaos have shut Honda Motor Factory due to part shortage. Honda confirmed to employees production will not run on Wednesday 9th of December due to transport related parts delays. Situation monitored with view to restart production as soon as possible. So this is talking about the just in time supply aspect of this. And obviously if a car factory can't get the parts it needs to manufacture the cars, what that means is the workers will potentially may not be laid off, but they may not they might not be needed in work that day, and therefore they may not get paid. And the point of this is Brexit is going to cause delays when it comes to shipping parts. And so what you're going to have is this problem will prolong into next year, especially since we know that Michael Gove said we won't have optimal border systems until 2025, so this could last for years, especially under a no deal. So a number of my business contacts is Faisal Islam here. I don't have any business contacts. Very concerned about the perfect storm on logistics of COVID, Christmas, Brexit stockpiling, and new set of trading arrangements. And that's the key point here, is you have people buying more stuff because of COVID, because they can't go on holiday, they can't go out, so maybe they spend more time on eBay, Amazon, and other websites buying stuff. So that stuff has to come from somewhere, and particularly clothing comes from Asia. Things like computer parts come from Asia, and there you have the shipping problems. People buying stuff for Christmas, toys come from factories in China usually. So there's a secondary problem here. Brexit stockpiling, so people buying loads of stuff in anticipation for a no deal, which is looking very likely. So obviously that stuff, those food items and those products have to come from somewhere, and they're being shipped in with certain products, and there you have another problem. So that's 3, and a new set of trading arrangement systems yet to be confirmed. And so what that means is you have, I think it was the French border forces, they were doing a trial run a few weeks ago, and that caused a massive problem with shipping into France. So there you have another issue right there. And the whole point of this is to say that, look, COVID is a problem, a huge problem when it comes to shipping. Brexit is another huge problem when it comes to shipping. Essentially what you're doing is playing polymerization and fusing the two, and going to cause absolute havoc when it comes to shipping, especially things to the UK. I know that EU ports have expanded in anticipation for Brexit, but when you combine that with COVID and Brexit, you're going to have massive problems. The EU are going to have huge problems as well, because this is a global problem we're seeing here. So the ports people told me yesterday that the core original problem at Felixstowe is being worked through and has been more than halved, but businesses now say multiple supply chains are being hit with delays. Expert freight forwarder told me told me started to hire a load of planes because disruption in sea freight into the UK means products unable to land, cargo price hikes, and severe shortages of hauliers, and warehouse space. Because obviously, if warehouses are stocking up more stuff, say food items, that means they're not going to have space for other things, and that means the price of the warehouse space goes up. And obviously, if you're bringing in things by by plane, that's more expensive. Hence why, typically ships are done because you can carry a massive amount. Planes are quicker, but they're more expensive. Um, Retailer confirms to me that container rates to the UK have spiked up to six to $7,000 as shippers rip up contracts. Others use a figure of a 27% increase in prices because as there are more problems when it comes to shipping, those containers, the price of shipping goes up because there's more demand for it. If you guys see what I'm saying, it's simple supply and demand, but with further complications. That's what this whole thing is about, I suppose. And so the more of a premium that warehouse space is, the more of a premium that shipping containers are, the more expensive products become, and therefore the people that pay for it at the end of the day are the consumer, because businesses typically don't like absorbing costs. They typically pass it on to the consumer because they still want to make money at the end of the day. They still want to make profit, especially if they have shareholders who are typically greedy. Today, at the start of the COVID story, massive influx of PPE, but also logistics generally appended by a massive impact on trade. But here also a mass late move into Brexit stockpiling to avoid hassle tariffs, especially companies that used existing stockpiles for COVID, all at the same time. Gove's point regarding this is it's not anticipated Brexit holdups in cross-channel roll-on, roll-off freight, which is correct. Container terminals, more global problem, but it makes a starting point for new trade arrangements even trickier and problem added to by Brexit stockpiling. Indeed, difference between the recently leaked Cabinet Office reasonable worst case scenario document and the Yellowhammer one a year ago is about these interactions between COVID and Brexit. COVID used up companies' Brexit stockpiles. Container terminals were an alternative. So, I'm no expert in this. I couldn't tell you 100% of what this stuff means. All I can do is tell you the basics because that's all I know. And all I can tell you is that supply has diminished and demand has gone up, and that makes everything a lot more expensive. Also, the time element of this stuff, which is that when it comes to Brexit, when border checks and checks on shipping come into place, you're going to have more expensive stuff and you're going to have more delays, which means that it's going to be much harder to get stuff into the country because of all the extra checks and tariffs that are going to come in. And at the end of the day, that's where you're going to have shortages, because we can tell from this they may get to a point where supermarkets may not get in certain products because it's just going to be too expensive to get shipped in and checked and tariffed. So you may see a shortage on certain products that come from certain places. We have to wait to see. So this video, I've rambled on a lot. I know I haven't made 100% sense because, as much as I've tried to understand a lot of this stuff, I haven't been able to, but I can boil it down to being majorly a supply-demand issue combined with a time issue. And then once you throw Brexit into that mix, once you play polymerization, you throw Brexit into that mix, that's where you're going to have huge problems. Apologies for this stuff here, Tory rapist and Stop Blair. I don't know what those things are about yet. Maybe I'll dig into those, but yeah. Remember when David Davis says there will be no downside for Brexit, only considerable upside. If you make money out of logistics, then yeah, you might have an upside. But I'm going to leave it there. This video has gone on for a long time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know this is not my best video. I apologize for that. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.